Hi, I'm Amy.
And I'm Neil.
And we are
Nerds Over 40.
Welcome, Nerdmigos.
Yes, welcome. Week 9, episode 9?
I believe so, yes.
9 episodes. All right, we're almost to double digits.
We are.
All right, what are we talking about this week?
We're talking about Ready Player One. We're going to talk about the book, and we're also going to talk about the film and kind of compare and contrast and give you guys some recommendations.
That's right. So, the book, been out for a little while. It was published first in August of 2011, so 14 years ago. It's by Ernest Cline, Ernie to his friends. He told me to call him Ernie one time when I got a book signing, so I put myself into that category. Amy, how did you discover this book?
You recommended it. I ignored you, as I am wont to do on occasion. Neil's reading palette is a lot of guys with swords and guys with phasers. I am occasionally in the mood for a guy with a sword or a guy with a phaser, but more often than not, my reading list is a little more eclectic. So I thought about it, didn't do it. And then we went to Comic-Con, and you could tell the story of your meetup with Ernie.
Sometimes staffs or even dragons are involved in those books too.
That is true.
So our very first Comic-Con, 2015. And one of my favorite parts of Comic-Con are the unscripted, the unplanned parts. We were just kind of walking around the exhibition hall, and I was in the book section, and someone next to me said, "Are you in line?" And I said, "In line for what?" And he's like, "Ernest Cline is signing copies of Ready Player One." And I was like, "You bet your bippy I'm in line."
You jump in line.
I was in line, made my way to the front. The line monitors wanted us to get through quickly and efficiently, and they told us not to really chat with Ernie.
One of the cool things that I discovered through this experience at Comic-Con, one of the things everybody likes at Comic-Con is getting free stuff, getting swag. And so they put everybody in this line, and then they walked down the line with a box and just handed everybody a brand new copy of the book, which I thought was cool. You didn't have to bring your book to get it signed. They just gave you free copies of it.
Well, a lot of authors, they're signing books, but you have to buy the books. But Ernie was giving them away. So I make my way up to the front, and I defy the line monitors because I just say to Ernie, "I got to tell you, this is one of my favorite books ever. I really enjoyed it." And so he actually starts to chat, and he points out he's got an Easter egg in his book. So those of you who have a paper copy, or if you buy a paper copy, at the beginning of every chapter, the first couple lines is bolded. And if you look at the letters, there'll be one or two letters that are missing pixels out of the letter. Take those letters and put them all together and see what happens. It's pretty cool. It's really in keeping with the spirit of the novel.
And why are Easter eggs important in the novel?
Well, because they are looking for an Easter egg in the novel.
That is the whole point of the entire novel, is this quest for a hidden Easter egg in what we can get into what's in the book.
Yeah, so we start with the protagonist, Wade Watts. And that's a name that just really rolls off the tongue. And that's on purpose. His father was a comic book enthusiast, and so many comic book heroes, they all have, like Peter Parker, and I get him confused with Wade Wilson, who's Deadpool, right? That pattern, his father was inspired by it, and that's why I named him Wade. He's born into a dystopian United States, and the whole world is kind of gone to hell in a handbasket. He is living in a trailer park outside of Oklahoma City, and it's in the future, so it's not just any trailer park.
The year's 2045.
2045. But due to space constraints, they've started building trailers up instead of just out. So they call them the stacks. And yeah, it's like a high-rise trailer park, which in Tornado Country sounds like a terrific idea. So anyway, in this world, James Halliday his company has invented the Oasis. And the Oasis is Well, it was originally thought of as virtual reality, reality simulation as a game, but it became much more than that. It became an escape for so many people. For sounds like a huge chunk of the human race to get away from the dystopian reality that they were living in. Um, and it's accessible. It costs people a quarter for their membership, which is a very cool throwback to video games.
Correct.
And but the company makes its money off of other things. They rent or they sell virtual reality in this world to corporations and to other people who build these worlds. What kind of worlds do they have in there?
They have a World of Warcraft world. They have like a sports world where you can climb Everest with Batman and go surfing. They have a casino world. They have a sex world. Probably most fandoms have their own world.
Yeah, I think there's a
There's
Middle
Planet
Earth.
Doom.
Yeah, that was featured in the movie quite a bit.
Yeah.
So, um, anyway, that's you've got entertainment figures, but basically life tends to revolve around this oasis. It's got its own economy. It has its own in-game currency, which is worth real money and is actually, according to the book, is more stable than most like actual currencies, like the dollar or the euro.
And because there's been an economic collapse in the real world, most people work in the oasis. So they're working in the oasis, they're earning money in the oasis, and that's where the real economy of the planet is happening.
And it's split into 27 different sectors. Most of those sectors have a theme of some sort, like they might be sci-fi. And some of those zones are PvP. And what does PvP stand for?
Player versus player. So you're fighting against other actual players, their avatars versus your avatars. And one of the things that happens in the Oasis is your avatar can be killed. And if your avatar is killed, you lose all of your stuff. So your gold or whatever the Oasis currency happens to be.
Yeah, so you're back to zero. And
You
it's
zero out.
and it's real world money too. So it's kind of a big deal. You don't want to zero out. And that is a term that's used in the book. But anyway, Halliday invents this thing, and of course he becomes a mega, billion trillionaire. But he's a recluse. He's
Yeah, I think they kind of based this a little bit on Steve Jobs.
I think the relationship between Halliday and Ogden Morrow was almost like Wozniak and
Right.
Jobs. Though I think Wozniak was the real tech guy in that relationship, and Jobs was he was the marketing genius, right? But between Ogden Morrow and James Halliday, they created this company that started off with video games and then ended up creating this huge virtual reality world.
Yeah, it started out as Gregarious Games, and then when they transitioned into everything else, they renamed it Gregarious Simulation Systems. And as we said, there's more going on in the Oasis now than just games. There's shopping malls where people go to do all their shopping. There's places where people go to work. So it's not just a game like the internet. There's everything.
And at some point, Ogden Morrow and James Halliday have a falling out, and Halliday buys Morrow out, kind of gets him completely out of the business, and he sort of takes over all of it.
One of the things that I think why the book resonates is it seems believable. It seems like if you ask yourself the question, where is the internet going? What was the internet when we first started using the internet versus what is the internet now versus what will it be in the future? This is a vision of where the internet could go in the future, and it seems fairly believable. Also, the things that have led the world to be in this dystopian situation are overpopulation and global warming and economic collapse. And these are all things that, could happen. And this could be not an answer to it, but at least a reaction to those things happening in the real world.
Yeah, so it's a plausible future.
Right. So when you're reading the book, while it is fantasy sci-fi, like all good fantasy sci-fi, particularly sci-fi, you can kind of relate and see it happening. I would liken that a little bit to Star Trek, where when Star Trek started, there were all of these things that, have now become iPads, have now become cell phones, different technology that wasn't existing at the time it was written, but it could act as an inspiration for things in the future. And, I think one of the things we're seeing now in the world is AI and kind of the advent of people using AI on a much more regular basis. I opened up a Word document the other day to actually create the notes for this episode, and there was an AI helper who wanted to write it for me. Um, Obviously, Microsoft Word does not know what a control freak I am, because I'm like, oh, hell no. AI cannot write it as well as I can. But there are all of these things. I write our standard operating procedures for work, and suddenly I'm being targeted by this AI program on Facebook wanting me to sign up to write these standard operating procedures rather than me doing it. So I feel like with technology progressing as quickly as it is, if you read the book now, even compared to when the book came out in 2011, a lot of the things that are in the book maybe seem more plausible now, a decade later, than they do when the book was published.
Well, all good sci-fi kind of holds a mirror up to the present so that you can kind of see things that are happening now from a different
Yeah,
perspective. And
and
then,
and also good, bad, or otherwise. And I think you see that also in the relationship between Halliday and Morrow, because Morrow was asking kind of the moral questions of where is this going? Just because we can do something, should we do something? Whereas Halliday was guns blazing. And so that's when Morrow tapped out of the relationship. I think that's why he did. And he kind of created his own thing, which was educational software for kids that was free, and went in a completely different direction from Halliday over that difference of opinion on the future of the Oasis.
but I think they did share a lot of common ground, and I think a lot of it is something that a lot of gamers can relate to. Is that they didn't want to see the Oasis completely commercialized, you
Right.
know, and that's where this contest comes in, because Halliday has become an old man and now he's dying, and he
The
has.
book actually opens after his death. He's been dead for 5 years at the beginning of the book.
That's right, but 5 years ago, when he died, he had nobody, right? He had no family, no close friends. So in his will, his estate, he created this final sort of game, the hunt for his Easter egg, which if you won it, you would inherit everything. All of his shares in gregarious gaming simulations.
Maybe even more importantly, complete control of the Oasis.
Yeah,
So it wasn't like you're getting some stock in the Oasis, you're running the whole show. And there's a kill switch for the Oasis where you can hit the button and turn the entire thing off. You're actually also gaining access to that. So whoever inherits it can do whatever they want with it, unchecked, up to and including killing the Oasis.
yeah. But a couple weeks ago, we had $1.8 billion lottery drawing, right? And that captured a lot of people's attention. Well, this is much, much more than that. And you can imagine how electrifying that would be to find out that this guy's estate is up for grabs from anybody.
So when he dies, everyone decides that they're going to do this. They're all going to win this contest.
But
And what Halliday left behind was kind of not a roadmap, but his clue, which was an almanac, which was an actual book. And it was his history of all of the things he loved growing up. Now, he grew up in kind of middle America, was born in 1972, which is also the year Neil was born. I was born in 69. Um, but it's all of the things that he loved growing up. So it's the television shows, the movies, the video
and this
games,
is what makes the
the
book
music.
really nostalgic and fun for Gen Xers, is that it is a little bit of a trip down memory lane for us of movies and television shows and music that we grew up loving.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's certainly written for people of a certain age. And when you look at the fact that Neil was born the same year as Halliday, his experiences in terms of what movies he was seeing at whatever ages are exactly the same as Halliday's. So while Halliday did differ in some ways, like there's some anime stuff in there, which neither one of us are really anime people, though some of our listeners and viewers may be. That's not really our lane.
At the end of the very first chapter, Wade logs into his Oasis membership, and his password is "Greetings, Starfighter. You have been chosen by the Star League to defend the frontier against Zur and the Kodan Armada," which that is a quote directly from The Last Starfighter, which is, as a kid, I loved that movie. It was a great movie. My Aunt Nancy took me to see it with my brother. And it's just one of those, just so nostalgic. So I was so excited when I saw that quote, because I absolutely love that movie. Just so many memories, and it really, for me, it was like foreshadowing for the rest of the book about what this book was, what it was about.
For me, what drew me to it was not so much any specific reference, but I had an online life for a while. Kind of, 90s. Got kind of with the advent of America Online. So I had friends on AOL. I was in a chat room in AOL. And the people I knew on AOL, we all kind of had similar interests. We were in a legal chat room together. Not that we talked about law at all, but that was just kind of where we all wound up. And then progressing from that was MySpace, and then progressing from that was Facebook. I created a group on Facebook that called the Cumber Collective, which was a fan group for the actor Benedict Cumberbatch. Met some people through that kind of transitioned us into Comic-Con. And a lot of the people that I've known online, I developed actual relationships with in IRL. If you don't know what that is, it's in real life. So,
and who would one of these people be? Yeah, so that's a cautionary
caveat
tale.
emptor.
Yeah.
But no, it is one of those things where if you've had that experience where you've had an avatar or a screen name, on some level, you're that person that isn't exactly you. It's kind of you, but it's not completely you. World of Warcraft, I've talked about quite a bit. Same thing. Like my main on World of Warcraft, she's part of me. She's not me. She doesn't look like me. Little bit, not idealized.
She's a redhead.
As she is a redhead. But as many online personas are, there's portions of you there. There's part of your personality there, but it's how you want to portray yourself. So it's you kind of masked somewhat. So I think, some of the characters that I related to in Ready Player One, I was relating to because I personally had that kind of journey on the internet, which was in chat rooms, meeting people, and then creating Facebook groups and creating friendships through that, and then playing games and being that person, that avatar, playing with other people. So I think that for me, it wasn't even the 80s references. It was just kind of that general experience of being a real person, but also having this online presence that sometimes you hide behind, and sometimes can even be more you than your real person is.
I think that's part of the reason why this book has resonated with so many Gen Xers specifically, because I think the boomers were pretty much developed by that time.
Yeah, we were the first generation that really had these experiences, I would say. And now the way the internet seems different to me. The whole TikTok, little pieces of things.
It's kind of splitting us apart more than bringing us together.
So I think that this book in particular, the book, would resonate, with people of our generation specifically who grew into this online experience.
So back to the book.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, no. So back to the book. Halliday has this contest, and everyone becomes. And part of what this contest does is it creates this. Suddenly, everyone is into the 70s and the 80s. Halliday leaves behind Anorak's Almanac. Now, Anorak is his screen name, and it was a nickname that was given to him by Kira Morrow, who would later become Ogden Morrow's wife, but they knew each other in high school.
They played D&D together. 3 of them played D&D together.
And Anorak was a slang term, British slang term. She was
she was British.
Exchange student.
Is she British or Australian?
I think she was British.
Okay.
Pretty sure she was British, but it's a slang term for a nerd. And it's also a type of hat, I guess. But he adopted it. He named his character Anorak. And one of the things he bequeathed the world with his contest was Anorak's Almanac, which had everything that he ever loved growing up. All of his interests, like video games, movies, television shows, music, his philosophical musings, all this sort of stuff. It must have been volumes of content. But he left that behind for people to study, to navigate this game that's taking place inside the Oasis. This massive, virtual world.
The point of the game, the end game, so to speak, is to find this Easter egg. But there's all these stages that you have to go through to find the egg. So he started with a riddle. That was the beginning of the game. And everyone's trying to decipher this riddle based on what's in the almanac. And the riddle should lead you to the first key. There's going to be some sort of a challenge that will give you the first key. The first key is a copper key. After that, you'll get a clue to go to the first gate, which is the copper gate. Once you find the gate, you put the key in, and then there's another clue that leads you to the second one. So in total, there's 3 keys and 3 gates. So the book starts 5 years after Halliday has died, and there's been obsession trying to find this first key, and no one has found it. And
interest has died down by a lot of but you've still got hardcore Gunters like our boy Wade.
And Gunter is egg hunter. That's their slang for egg hunter. So there's basically 2 groups that are still pushing for this. So there are the Gunters, and then there is IOI. And IOI is like the evil corporation, and they are working in tandem. They have teams of people. They have teams of researchers, and then they have teams of people who are going out into the world and trying to find this first clue. Do you want to talk about IOI a little bit, or?
Well, so IOI is kind of a stand-in for evil corporations, right? Gregarious Gaming Simulations, or whatever their name is at this point, they're making a ton of money off the Oasis, but you get the feeling that they're not making nearly as much as they could be, that they could be really monetizing it a lot more heavily, because everyone gets access, all individuals get access to it for a quarter. Now, what they do inside, there are charges for that, but a lot of those charges aren't. I think IOI charges not IOI, but Gregarious charges for real estate and for transportation. And everything else is just is out there.
But you can buy things.
Yes.
You can buy artifacts and vehicles and a variety of other things.
But IOI wants to take over, and they want to really, really monetize it, make it, and really, of course, that would drive the have-nots completely off of the Oasis, which in this particular world would be pretty awful because you don't have you lose your major escape from this awful dystopian world.
And IOI stands for Innovative Online Industries. So the head of IOI is Nolan Sorrento. So, figure evil corporate dick who's in charge of things. And then the people who are working for him are the Sixers. The reason why they call them that is because they all have a generic avatar that is just like a very generic male avatar in kind of a black outfit. And the way they distinguished one from the other is their number, their call sign. which is 6 digits and starts with a 6. So hence the Sixers. And all the Gunters cannot stand the Sixers. They hate the Sixers, and throughout the book are making negative comments about the Sixers.
You'll have clans that shoot Sixers on sight.
Right. If you are watching this on YouTube or if you're listening, I have a No Sixers t-shirt on. It has a 6 with a big cross through it because we hate the Sixers.
The Suxors.
The Sexors, as Wade and his friends refer
That's
to
right.
the Sixers. So anyway, we start with Wade, and Wade has kind of his merry band of men, and who he's involved with in the book. So we have his best friend.
His best friend H. Really, at this point, kind of his only friend.
Yeah.
They both are students on Ludus,
which is the school planet.
Yeah.
And the schools are based on, is it the school in Ferris Bueller?
Oh, yeah, so it's built to look like Shermer High.
Right. All of the schools. And they go to school online. And that's something that they talk about quite a bit, because Wade's backstory is he's very, very poor. He has no money. He's kind of overweight. He's been just kind of an outcast when he was going to school live. So being able to just go to school online as his avatar was a huge boon for him. It was great, and he loves that.
And these schools are provided free of charge by Gregarious, by the Oasis company.
And it's kind of cool, like when you're talking about it, like I think there was a scene where they were like going to a museum.
Well, they could go through museums.
Yeah, they could walk through like ancient Egypt, like a virtual ancient Egypt. I mean, when you're reading that, you're like, hey, this actually could be the future of schools, and it could be actually really cool and kind of get the students' attention.
Much more interactive,
yeah,
and interesting. And also, it cuts down on disruptions because it's got programming in there that if
they've locked everything down.
Yeah, so that a student can't disrupt class.
Right. So anyway, Wade's best friend, who also goes to school on Ludus, is H. They are going to school on the same planet, but they've never met each other in person because the school is in the Oasis.
And they're going to different schools too. There's multiple schools.
Right. And H is also a Gunter. But the difference between Wade and H is very successful in PvP and has a lot more currency than Wade
much higher
does.
level than Wade is.
Yeah. He can leave the planet and he goes and does his contests and things.
It sounds like he wasn't as desperately poor,
right,
as Wade is to start.
So, and H has his own chat room, which is called
H's Basement.
H's Basement, which is based on
visually it's Halliday's basement that he grew up in.
So it looks just like if any of you had a basement. I grew up in California. We didn't have basements, but I would have liked to. But it looks like somebody's granny's basement. It's got wood paneling and shag carpet and an old console TV and a bookshelf full of comic books, and that's where they hang out.
But he had like game consoles hooked up so they could actually play each other in Atari or in whatever video games in this VR world.
And that's what they do. They compete because one of the big things in Ready Player One is they don't clan up. These guys are playing individually. They're going for the win by themselves. Some of the Gunters clan up and do it in groups. Wade doesn't do that. H doesn't do that. Tell me about Artemis.
Okay, so Artemis starts early in the book. Artemis is just kind of a distant figure. She is a blogger. She does some online publishing. She talks about Halliday. A lot of Gunters follow what she writes. We'd call her a podcaster now, I think.
Yeah, her blog is called Artie's Missives, and Wade, in the course of being a fan of this blog, has developed, like, as he puts it, a massive cyber crush on her before he ever meets her in the Oasis or in real life.
Yeah, so she's kind of a little. Both she and H are kind of famous.
Yes,
they're both well known.
And successful,
yes,
in the Oasis.
So, and Wade really sparks to her takes on Halliday, and I think he gets a lot of insights from her.
Yeah, one of the things about her is I wouldn't say most, but a lot of the female avatars are kind of hypersexualized in the Oasis, skinny, big boobs, whatever. They describe her avatar as being a more realistic, like realistic to a human being. They describe her as Rubenesque, which is AKA chunky. So
So yeah,
she's not trying to be like a super sex pot. She's out there doing her own thing and
yeah,
trying to be a little more real.
yeah, no tankinis for her.
Right, exactly.
And then we've got two Japanese gunters, Dado and Shoto, and they're kind of treated as a unit because they are very tight.
They refer to themselves as brothers, though in the book they're not actual brothers.
And Shoto and Daido they're two different types of swords that were carried by samurai. So they're they even their screen names are kind of coordinated.
Right. And one of the things I found very interesting in the book was how they met. Eventually, we find out how they met. I think Shoto was the one who told Wade this, which is they met in a virtual support group in the Oasis for Haikiko Mori. And what that is described as is young people who completely withdraw from life and spend all their time online. And their families were concerned about this and put them into this virtual support group. And I think I've heard of this. Like, I think this is an actual thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's called that, but I do know that that can be a thing for online gamers, that they get to the point where like this virtual life is really their life and they're just plugged in all the time on their computers and, cause for concern. And that is kind of a theme throughout the book, is kind of the virtual world versus the real world and the merits of each one.
Yeah.
And they ended on that also. So you're asking yourself that, would you rather live in this virtual world as this idealized whatever, or function in the real world with all of its problems? And
Well,
what did they say that, what did Halliday say?
The real world is the only place where you can get a good meal.
Right, exactly.
But if you're, poor with few prospects, then yeah, why wouldn't you want to be plugged in all the time?
Yeah, it doesn't. The Oasis, one of the things in the book that I found interesting was Wade goes into, I think it's a pizza parlor, and they have smell vision.
Yes.
So he went in and it smelled like pizza, and then he wanted a pizza. So he went up to the counter and ordered a pizza at this, I think it was like a bowling alley or whatever.
No, it was a arcade.
Arcade. So he orders a pizza, and then the Oasis arranges for like a pizza delivery to actually deliver the pizza to his door in the real world. So they're kind of trying to integrate that.
Yeah.
But he could smell the pizza, and that's what made him want the pizza.
Now this also is much later on, after he's achieved some level of fame and has some money, because
Right. He can order a pizza.
the smell-o-vision is not that's an expensive add-on.
Yeah. It's not your default.
Yeah, so anyway, that takes us, we've talked a little bit about Nolan Sorrento. He is the head of the egg hunters for IOI. And he is, your corporate jerk, right?
Then speaking of jerks, there's IROC.
There's IROC, and he's a snot-nosed kid who he knows H from school, and so that's how he gets into H's basement.
Yeah, and Wade refers to him as a poser.
And really early in the book just humiliates him on Halliday lore.
Yeah, like IROC's trying to quiz Wade, and Wade has like a total like bitch please moment. Like he's just like, yeah.
Yeah, it's really the thing that that IROC comes at him with is really basic Halliday knowledge that these guys have known since, for probably years before this.
Yeah, and spoilers, eventually Wade and H wind up with the copper key, and IROC can't figure out how to get it. So he's trying to blackmail them into telling him how to get it, and they basically tell him to go screw himself. And so he releases information about Wade that ends up IOI can figure out Wade's real identity from that, and it's IROC's fault.
Yeah, he publishes information that it's on that the egg is on Ludus, that these guys are students and that's how it becomes pretty much common knowledge where you need to go to get the copper key.
Right. So we're not going to retell you the story of the book. We'd like to encourage you to read the book. I thought the book was great. And like I said, I'm kind of looking at it from a different perspective as Neil, but we both really enjoyed the book, and I was very glad I read it. So moving to the movie now. So to go from what the book was to what the movie was. The movie was released in 2018, so it was released 7 years after the book. Oh, and one more thing about the book. The same time they released the book, they also released the audiobook on the same day. And the person who narrates the audiobook is Will Wheaton. So
it's one of the better audiobooks
from
you'll
Star Trek.
Listen to.
So that's something to note if you prefer listening versus reading. The audiobook is also very good and narrated by Will Wheaton.
And you'll get references to some of your favorite people, Gen Xers out there. They talk about how Will Wheaton is one of the co-presidents of the Oasis. That's completely democratically elected. He and Cory Doctorow, who's another author, they're the co-presidents. It makes references to Kevin Smith.
Speaking of presidents of things, we'd like to give a shout out to our boy Sean Astin.
That's right.
What was he just elected to?
President of SAG-AFTRA, the Screen Actors Guild.
So IRL, Sean Astin is in a position like that.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Dude, didn't they tell you don't volunteer for anything?
I hope that doesn't mean he's too big to never, ever, ever come on our podcast.
I think he was probably already there, babe.
Probably, but I'm going to keep asking.
Okay. Right. So, the biggest difference I think in the movie and the book is the different treatment in how you get the keys and the gates, and kind of. In the book, the keys and the gates are two separate things.
Yeah, it's like 6 challenges in the book. Whereas in the movie, you get the key and the gate appears and you stick the key in the gate. So there isn't a separate challenge between the key and the gate. It's like one challenge and you get the key and the gate's just there, which is not the way it works in the book.
The challenges are completely different.
They are.
The first challenge is in the book is based on Dungeons and Dragons, holiday knowledge, and then war games. They call it flick syncs, and that's where it puts your avatar right into the movie. So in the book, the player has to know the dialogue for the main character,
Matthew
Broderick's character in
you
war
have
games.
to speak it along like with the movie, and if you get a word wrong or something, you get like a strike or a warning.
Yeah.
So you better know that movie.
But it kind of tells you how obsessive Wade is and Artemis and all these Gunters are, that they're able to get through war games. And I'm going to be honest with you. I saw war games. I liked war games, but I don't want to see it that many times.
I don't think I could do war games. I might be able to do The Big Lebowski.
Yeah, I could probably do The Big Lebowski. The Princess Bride I could do for sure.
I don't think I could do The Princess Bride, but I think I could do, of any movie, The Big Lebowski is probably the one. Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou? I could probably do pretty well too.
I probably couldn't do Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou? But
not the singing part.
Damn,
no one wants to hear me sing.
We're in a tight spot.
That's right.
But
I said my piece and counted to 3.
But so he gets through that, and then he gets the next clue after he does the flick sync of war games. He gets the next clue for the Jade Key, which is for the second.
Right.
And
so you want to talk about because we're talking about the movie now.
In the movie.
So what's the first challenge in the movie?
The first challenge is this car race.
And everybody knows about it. Nobody has to find the challenge. In the book, you have to do all this research to figure out what the first challenge is. In the movie, it's a race that everybody knows about, but everybody keeps dying. At the end of the race, you get right to the last part, and King Kong shows up and whacks everybody down and kills everybody. And actually, that's the first time Wade meets Artemis in the film, is he's keeping her from being killed by King Kong. Because if she had been killed by King Kong, she would have zeroed out.
Yeah.
So, and he figures out finally how to beat this race that people have been doing for 5 years and no one has been able to figure out.
Yeah.
And it's kind of stupid the way, to be honest.
It's
I was
not
like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's been significantly dumbed down for movie audiences.
Yeah, I mean, I think that part of what they're doing in the movie is they're trying to make it more accessible to everyone, not just this very specific segment of Gen Xers. They want it to be fun for kids.
They want to bring in a younger audience.
And I mean, frankly, watching people research is not the most exciting
No.
thing in the world. And a lot of what's going on in the book is them doing this research. So instead of having the almanac be a book, they've created this building. And you go in, and it's kind of a library of all of Halliday's stuff. And you can go in and view all of these segments of his life. You can see them kind of being acted out. And then there's this robotic guy named the curator who's kind of running this museum.
The snotty British accent.
He does have a snotty British accent. Not a Scottish one this time, a British one.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I think that this race is definitely more visually exciting. So let's talk about some of the other ways that the movie differs from the book. One of my favorite things was the second challenge. And what they did in that one, they went into a version of The Shining.
Yeah.
Which they did a fabulous job with that. It looked just like the Overlook Hotel. It looked like the Kubrick version of The Shining.
That was the highlight of the movie, I thought. That alone was worth the cost of admission.
Yeah. I mean, you literally walked in and it's that view, and there's like the typewriter.
And the portentous music.
Yeah, it's spooky. It's kind of scary. And one of the changes they made was with H. In the book, H's avatar was like a kind of a white Caucasian guy. In the movie, he's like kind of a half orc, half cyborg creature, and has a different job than H does in the book. But they have this big, huge, hulking kind of orc, but he's a scaredy cat. He's never seen The Shining, even though The Shining was a huge part of, Halliday's canon. But he doesn't like scary movies. So he winds up in this recreation of The Shining, and he's like, was The Shining scary? And everybody's like, yeah.
Well,
and
you've got to think that not liking scary movies would, think about the stuff in the 80s, right? The Nightmare on Elm Street, the Friday the 13th movies. I mean, that's a big part of kind of the
Fly.
Yeah, the lore from the 80s.
And I just feel like a gunter that's a high-level gunter like H would not have let being scared in scary movies stop him from researching all of those scary movies.
Yeah.
I mean, The Shining was a huge movie, not to mention a huge book. I'm sure Halliday read the book, too. I mean, who didn't grow up reading Stephen King if you're our age, right? I mean, you grew up reading Stephen King's book. You grew up seeing Stephen King movies. So I do feel like that didn't quite ring true for me, that portion of it. But actually watching, visually, it was amazing. Visually, it was very, very cool. So I enjoyed that change that they made. Other changes, the brothers were actually brothers in the movie, whereas in the book they were just internet brothers. The younger one was only 11 years old in the book, or in the movie, because I think they were trying to bring a kid in.
Yeah, they're trying to reach for that younger audience.
Yeah, so the kids could kind of relate.
Yeah,
to
definitely
that.
Did not have some of the darker elements that the book has.
Yeah, I mean, at one point in the book, Wade's really desolate because his relationship with Artemis has kind of fallen apart, and he goes and gets himself a sex doll. That didn't happen in the movie.
It does not get graphic. He just refers to,
but I mean, use your imagination, right? So. And again, the future's coming. Pun intended.
Howard Wolowitz is doing his best to make that happen.
So who knows when that's going to become a thing. The movie, they clan up much more quickly. At the end of the book, they have to kind of work together out of necessity, where it seems like
they
it
well they all
becomes a
knew each
thing,
other.
or
They all
yeah,
knew each other before, well, except for Artemis, but Sho, Daito, and H all knew each other,
at the beginning of the
and
movie.
Wade knew each other. Yeah, at the beginning of the movie, right? Because you see him reaching out to H to get in the race for the first key, and he's on
In a
Planet
battle
Dune
with
with Sho
Shaito and Do.
and Daito.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. And they refer to them as the high five. Those are the first five on the scoreboard for the game, and they're these five.
You know what? After that first challenge, they don't show the scoreboard again in the movies, do they?
I don't know, but they certainly talk about it in the book a lot.
Yeah, and then
There's
the
a
book
lot
is
of talk of the scoreboard.
because it kind of goes up and down a little
Yeah.
bit. Because Wade is not the first person to clear the second gate.
Right. And then IROC is different in the movie, so he's not a student with them. He's like a hired gun for IOI.
Yeah,
When they discover Wade's true identity, they hire him to go after Wade.
yeah, in the book, after the first couple chapters, he disappears. You never see him again.
Yeah. And being played by TJ Miller, he's kind of the comic relief too. He makes a lot of inside baseball references,
Yeah.
like referring to something as a camper move.
That's a camper move.
Yeah. Then Ogden Morrow is different. So in the book, he plays lesser role until the end.
Yeah.
At the end, the high five are in actual physical danger from IOI, and he agreed to keep the game fair, so he wanted to give them a safe place to finish the game. So he took them all to his home in Oregon and let them finish the final battle in safety at his home.
Yeah, IOI knew where they all lived and was getting ready to attack them, so he gives them a safe place to kind of complete the hunt. But that's basically Halliday asked him just to make sure to keep an eye on things and keep things fair. And that's what he does.
Whereas in the movie, the end of it is kind of hectic. Like Wade's finishing out the final battle, traveling around in like a post office van that's in motion.
Yeah.
And he's in his haptic suit, kind of hanging from a string in this van that's driving around the city. It gets a little more crazy. And again, I think that's part of the whole make it more visually interesting. If you put somebody in like a pod where they're safe versus you're in peril in real life versus they're just in peril in the oasis in the book at the end. So Ogden Morrow was played by Simon Pegg, who, if you don't know, was also Scotty in the new Star Trek movies.
He's one of our boys.
Been in a variety of other things.
Shaun of the Dead, one of my favorites.
But he's hilarious. He is so funny, and he's shine. I think his is one of the performances that shines through in the movie. Like, you just have to like Simon Pegg no matter what he's doing. So I thought he
brings some serious nerd cred to everything that he's in.
He does. Come on down. Come on the podcast. By the way, I always forget to mention this till the end, but if you're enjoying any of this, please like and subscribe.
You know what? I said that I thought that the biggest difference was the gates, but I've got to take that back. The biggest difference is that the book is about Wade Watts.
You did it again.
I know, but the movie is more of an ensemble. The book, you get to see much more of Wade's journey, and he does get a lot more development, I think, in the book than in the movie. And that's really reflected on how they end up beating the Sixers. Spoilers. Beating the Sixers.
By the way, they're spoilers.
At the end. Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that my favorite scene from the book was not translated into the movie. It was kind of alluded to in a different way. But at one point, Wade is kind of despondent and has given up working within the Oasis to be able to beat this. The Sixers have found the final gate. They just can't figure out how to beat it. And time is ticking. And he knows that eventually, with all of the people and resources that they're throwing at this, they're eventually going to figure it out. So he has to go beyond his research in the Oasis and get into the real world applications of this. So one of the things IOI does is they have these indentured servitude centers where people who owe money get put into basically prison for life.
Well, or at least until they pay off their debts, but they make sure that nobody ever pays off their debts.
Right. They charge them for
Like
boarding
the
and
company store.
yeah. So he creates a false identity and creates this debt for the false identity and gets himself arrested. So he gets put into one of these centers so he can basically hack into their data center and set up this scenario where they can get where they need to go for this gate. And I won't get into the details of that because I would say that this is definitely worth reading and experiencing on your own. But it's very clever. It's very clever the way he does it. And it definitely is kind of like, ooh, is he going to be okay? I just really enjoyed that portion of the book. And occasionally you go back and read your favorite parts of your favorite books. And that's a portion of the book I always go back and reread when I do that. In the movie, it's not him, but it's Artemis who ends up in this situation, and she ends up in a completely different way. So I would say that's something that got changed that I didn't think got changed for the better.
No, and also in the book, it really shows the development of Wade as a person, because he's practically an agoraphobic. You know, he's a shut-in. But he's not winning this game just through the Oasis. He's doing it in real life. He's putting he's putting his life in jeopardy to win this game. And he's acting in the real world, which.
And his motivation for winning it changes. In the beginning, it's just, I want to win it and get all the money and have all the stuff. Then it becomes more of the world that we value so much is going to change if I don't win this, or one of his team doesn't win this. If IOI wins it, it's going to ruin basically where they're living. The Oasis.
Yeah, the Oasis. Yeah, I mean, corporations are going to strip mine it like they strip mine everything else.
Yeah, so the motivation changes for him, and you do see his character development, which I think is an important part of any novel you happen to be reading. So I would recommend it that way also. There's some cool stuff in the book. One of my favorite things is an artifact that Artemis has. So they're black Chuck Taylor Converse All-Star tennis shoes. But they give her the ability to fly, and they also give her an ability for extreme speed. And I am a fan of Converse, and I always thought, wow, that'd be really cool to have a pair of those that would give you that. At one point, she loans them to Wade and makes a point of saying, this is just a loan and I'm getting these back. But that was something that I really liked in the book. There's a scene where Wade gets an extra life coin that plays a part down the line.
Game of Pac-Man.
Yeah, he doesn't know why it's important, and then it ends up being very important for him. There's things that allow you to turn into a giant robot and have giant robot fights.
Well, his ship is a Firefly class ship. Firefly, right?
Serenity, Firefly.
That he names the Vonnegut. He's got an X-wing fighter.
He drives a DeLorean. So if you're either reading or watching the movie, it goes by very quickly in the movie, and you're like, wait, is that? You're going to recognize a lot of things, and they're going to reference a lot of things in the book that you also get. Also, there's music, so
yeah, Rush plays a huge part in one of the challenges. It's a Rush challenge. So if you like the gods from the north, then you might enjoy the book as well.
Yeah, when they use the Zemeckis cube in the movie, they do the theme from Back to the Future.
Dun, dun. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So I think the song at the beginning of it is Jump from Van Halen.
1984 album, Van Halen.
Which anybody of our age should be familiar with, I would say.
I will say one thing, that their Rush is a big thing in the book, and they didn't even put a Rush song in the movie.
Well, that brings me to the question of why was the book so different from the movie? And I would say that probably there's some licensing issues.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't get the licensing for Rush.
Well, you notice that the robot that shows up at the end is not It's not the same robot
Yeah.
as in
One is like Ultra something.
Ultraman.
Ultraman.
Ultraman shows up in the book, but it's a Gundam that shows up, I
Yeah.
think, in the movie.
Yeah. And if we haven't mentioned it, the person who directed the movie was.
Steven Spielberg.
So I'm sure a lot of the IP that he's involved with was easier for them to get than some of the other IP from other things.
Yeah, I actually think that from a music perspective that James Gunn probably would have been a better director for this film.
Yeah, James Gunn is kind of a genius when it comes to fitting music with the feeling of his movies.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
I
I would agree with
he
that.
He takes the music very, very seriously.
Well, and he's a lot younger than Steven Spielberg
He
is,
has
too.
a lot of fun with the music, too.
Yeah,
he
does.
doesn't choose the low-hanging fruit.
No. Mr. Blue Sky.
You don't hear Bohemian Rhapsody in his movies.
Yeah.
That wasn't a shot at anyone else. Anyway, so
yeah. So this week we did not do a product of the week, nerd product of the week. We may do one next week. If you're lucky, it'll be Neil's underwear. That's what he suggested.
Depends on the laundry situation.
So we'll see if you're going to get an up close glimpse of Neil's underwear next week. I don't know. That's up to him, not me.
You're off all our viewers. Of course, we're here at the end of the show, so
that's right. If you've hung in, then maybe you want to see Neil's underwear.
That's right.
He said he won't model it. He's just going to.
Some of you have seen my underwear.
Yes, Jennifer, we're looking at you. But one of the things I suggested we talk about instead of a nerd product of the week this week is if you have either read Ready Player One or if you end up reading Ready Player One and you like it, what are other books that you might also enjoy? So one of the ones I suggested was Ender's Game, which has kind of a similar plot. It's a group of kids who get put into this kind of special school or special program, and it is kind of a gaming thing. And part of it, they do go to outer space. I think they're like on a spaceship, and
well, their training is on a
like a space station or something,
or an asteroid, I think.
Yeah. So, and it does have some kind of dark overtones. So that's one that I would recommend. That is actually one that was also recommended by Neil, and I did read. So
It's a classic of science fiction. Pretty easy to read.
Yeah, a lot of people reference that book.
Ender's Game. The movie was not nearly as good as the book.
Once again,
Orson Scott Card is the author.
Okay, so what's one of yours?
Well, I would say Neuromancer. I think Neuromancer is almost required reading for nerds. Gibson, the author, created so much terminology that we use every day, like the web and
is that the do electric sheep dream? Is that what's the question in
that?
No,
that's what Blade Runner was, and that's by Dick.
Okay.
But that's Do androids dream of electric sheep? And that's by Dick is the last name of the author. But Neuromancer is a book that and Snow Crash are kind of the things that created kind of the whole cyberpunk thing. You know, movies like The Matrix, books like Ready Player One all owe a debt to books like that. So that would be one of my recommendations.
Another one of mine would be Project Hail Mary. If you watched our Comic-Con episode, you will hear us talking about that at length, I believe.
Yeah.
It's written by Andy Weir. He is the same author as The Martian. And though the protagonist in this is an adult and not a child, he's kind of an everyman. And you can kind of relate to him, I think, a lot in the same way that you relate to Wade. And there is definitely character development over the course of that book. Plus, the book is just really fun.
It's
a good time. It's funny.
He's got a great sense of humor.
It's touching. I mean, it's got everything that you would want from sci-fi, but also just a great novel.
I think you could consider it hard sci-fi.
Yes, I would call it hard sci-fi.
It's really a good book, and he writes in a great voice too, I think.
And speaking of a great voice, I would recommend the audiobook. That's the way I read it. Because I commute, so a lot of my reading, quote unquote, it happens in the car. And the person who voices the audiobook is Ray Porter, and he does a fabulous job. And it's kind of universally accepted as one of the best audiobooks ever. So I would say that if you're in the car, once you're done listening to us, get Project Hail Mary and give it a shot. One of the things that I'm a little nervous about is I loved Ready Player One, the book, and didn't quite love the movie. I really liked Ender's Game and didn't really love the movie. I'm hoping that that will not be my experience with
Andy Weir
Project
wrote
Hail
The
Mary.
Martian, and if you saw the movie The Martian, it is very faithful to the book. It is very faithful to the book. It's remarkable, actually. But they got the same screenwriter from The Martian to do Project Hail Mary. So I think...
And apparently Andy Weir was on set. When he was at Comic-Con, he was talking about how he would correct things that were on the whiteboards behind the actors in some of the scenes. So hopefully him being that involved will carry over into
Well, and it also
the
looks
correct
like Ryan...
interpretation of the
It also looks like Ryan Gosling's one of the people who made this movie. I think he's probably going to have a producer credit of some sort.
Yeah, he's the lead in the film.
When you've got a lead who's enthusiastic about the material, I think that really helps. So now my second book is really more of a series of books, but the Dresden Files. Harry Dresden. It's urban fantasy, which is basically fantasy in a modern setting. The first book is Stormfront. I think it's about the third book where it really sort of where the author really starts to hit his stride. There's like 18 books out now, but I
haven't read these.
It's very funny. He makes a lot of pop culture references. He refers to the Tao of Peter Parker. I love Harry Dresden. He's one of my favorite fictional characters. So if you give those a try.
All right. So I think that we've covered that. I think that's, I would say read the book.
Absolutely. I would say it's required reading if you're a Gen X nerd.
I would say if you want to see the movie, maybe watch the movie first and then read the book, because you'd be a lot less critical of the movie if you haven't read the book.
Yeah,
I would say.
Yeah.
That's the order I would do it in.
The thing that made... So I think I liked the movie. It's fair to say I liked the movie better than you did.
Yes.
And I think that's probably because at the very beginning of the book, it says, my story's been told many times, many ways. None of them have been accurate. This book is the true story. In my head, this movie is one of those inaccurate ways that the story's been told. And that's kind of what allowed me to get through it and accept that this is not anywhere close to the book.
You can rent the movie on Amazon. It's going to cost you a little bit. It's not on any of the streaming services for free, but I think it's like $3.99 or something to rent it. I wouldn't recommend buying it, but that's just me. But that's our review. For next week, we are kicking around the idea of maybe doing Wednesday, because Netflix recently dropped the second half of this season of Wednesday. We haven't done a Wednesday episode, and we are kind of sneaking into pumpkin spice spooky season. So doing a spooky episode might be fun. And, spoilers, I really enjoyed this season of Wednesday. I actually enjoyed last season of Wednesday. So
that's a well-made show.
So spoilers, we will be talking about it. So
Brace
if you're
yourselves.
not caught up and you don't want to get spoiled and you still want to listen to the podcast, you might want to get caught up before next week.
I might give it another watch.
Yeah, I think you drifted at a couple of points during it.
Possibly.
So I was pretty focused on it. So anyway, that's our podcast for the week. But we hope you'll join us next week. And as I said, please like and subscribe. And if you have read Ready Player One, if you have seen the movie, drop us a review in the comments. I'd be interested to hear who liked it more than I did, who liked it less, and what you guys thought of the book.
You know what? And if there's other books you'd like for us to review, drop that in the
Throw
comments.
it in there.
Too.
Let us know.
We're always looking for new ideas.
Yep. And until then, live long and prosper.
Adios, nerdmigos.